from our real estate journey. Exciting day. Finally able to start tiling this floor. After 3 plumbers, we finally have this toilet situation squared away. So rest of the floor, pretty level. I've been using the little chisel there to go and scrape up the last little bits of glue that I've missed over the last couple scrapings. So this video basically is going to be chopped up into a couple pieces just to show you kind of step by step. I'm not going to record myself doing all this work. You'll die of boredom watching that stuff. But I will kind of give you the steps that I take, which is what I learned just from experience. Bless you, baby. That's the other half there. She refuses to get on camera. So anyway, just stuff that I've learned over the years from both doing it and YouTubers. There's some great tilers out there. So basically, first and foremost, floor needs to be level. This floor could be a little more level, but honestly, I've thrown the level of the 4-footer across it, different angles. I've got like a 16th here and there that's off. The thin set's gonna more than be able to offset all that stuff, so I'm not really concerned about that. Secondly is you want to lay out your tiles. What I do personally is I do the measurements, then I measure the actual tile, because as you'll see, tiles, even though these are considered 12 by 24s, if you measure them, try to do this with my hand, you'll see that it is not exactly, let me try to do this a little better. Maybe I'll edit that so you won't get motion sickness. But, all right, what the hell's going on? Zoom in, come on. There we go. So you'll see there, it's just past, what is that, 11 and 13/16. And then if you were to go long ways, you're going to see that it's, what does that say, 23 and 5/8-ish. So what I do is I measure my tile, measure the room, measure the tile, and for some reason this phone's not auto-zooming, auto-focusing, even though it's locked on. Who knows, maybe one day I'll buy an actual digital camera that is made for this, or better suited for this. Anyway, again, measure the floor, measure my tile, and don't forget your grout joints. I'm going with these levelers here. It's a leveling the lash system. And just like every other leveling spacer system out there, some people love them, some people hate them. Me personally, this is my first time using them, and we're gonna see. But I went with 16th inch. I've just always been a fan of small grout joints on larger tile. I'm gonna do the same thing on the shower wall when I get to that point too. But anyway, once you measure all that, account for your grout lines, and then I do it on paper. Maybe that's super anal. I do it on paper first, just to kind of sketch out what kind of layout I need, or would like, what would work, what wouldn't work, and then when I get to this point, I lay them out and play with them there and see how it actually looks, and go from there. So I already did lay it out a couple different ways. I didn't record any of that stuff. Originally I intended to, but my mind sometimes gets moving and I forget stuff, and it is what it is, so I didn't record it. Anyway, we've determined that we're gonna start back there, and we can run a full tile along this side, starting with a cut. And what I did, what you do with large tile is it's recommended to lay them in thirds. And you'll see what I mean by that here in just a little while. So even though these are less than 24 inches slightly, I just use 8 inch as a 1/3 rule. Just make math simple. No one's going to notice that you're an 1/8 of an inch off, to be honest with you. So just use 8 inches as your third. So I have to start, if I want almost a full tile here in the middle, then in my entrance, then I have to start with a 16-inch piece in that corner and then run down. And it worked out great, actually, the way this all laid out. And I have to give myself a pat on the back for that, because if you notice in some of the very beginning videos, which we're working on like 3 months ago now, unbelievably, part of me measuring and remeasuring over and over again, we already had a pretty good idea we were going to go with 12 by 24 tiles. So that was all part of the factor too. Now, did I get super anal about it? No, I didn't. But this worked out a little better than I even expected it to. Whereas we can run full tiles right here. I don't have to have any half pieces, any sliver pieces. And once I get over there with my grout lines, I'll actually have like a 10 3/4 inch row there, which that's fantastic. And then when I get over here, it's almost the same deal. I'm going to have a really nice solid piece, the majority of a piece going back there. So that works out terrifically well. Really happy with that. So anyway, I'll stop yapping for now. This very next step, actually, I'll show you before I shut my mouth here, is you got to make sure your door jambs are cut. Now these jambs, if you notice, are already off the floor a little bit. So the contractor who installed the doors, our initial contractor that we ultimately had to just say goodbye to, when we installed the doors, because I did help on a lot of these, I'm not putting all the blame on him at all. We lifted them up. We threw some of this LVT underneath of them and then installed them in place. I've since learned that that was not the right way to do it. We should have just installed these doors flush to the floor, got them perfectly leveled up, get your frame completely all leveled out, and then come back and cut them to have tile or whatever you're putting underneath of them. So that was a little mistake on our part. And actually these doors, several of them now, I have to have a door guy come back and get them fixed. So anyway, this one, what I'm going to do is, this is the tile itself. I'm going to stick a piece of cardboard underneath of it to take the place of the thin set that'll be under here. And then I'll take the multi-tool and cut it. So that's what you need to do. That's what I'm about to do. I'll get that cleaned up, and I'll continue here in just a little bit. All right, here we are. This is about 2.5 hours later. Felt it was a perfect point to stop for a few minutes. I ran out of thin set, or the first bucket anyway. This is the progress so far. This is my first time using this lash system, the self-levelers, and mixed reviews, mixed reviews so far. What I learned after probably half of these is you set the tile in the mud, and you have to wiggle it around, of course, to get it secure. Well, at that point now, you just made it very difficult to get these little spacers under your tile. So what I learned, and it should be fine, I don't think it'll cause a problem, but what I started doing on this half was lay the tile into the mud in the thin set and just give it a little bit of a wiggle to try to get it lined up, but don't put a lot of pressure on it. And then I was taking my trowel my margin trout here and scraping along the edges to clear out all the mud from there, sliding my spacers underneath, and then putting the pressure down and wiggling it back and forth to get into place, and then adding the yellow clips in there, wedges, and tightening them down. I see right here that I missed some, so I was going to show you one anyway, but I just realized I missed this whole row. So this tool here, you can do it by hand, but it's much easier with this thing, I've learned. So you just do that like that, and click, click, click. And there you go, voila. What I learned also is with them, when I first did these first few, like the second or third one that I squeezed to tighten, it shot right through. So don't try to go real fast. It'll do that. It shoots right on through. You have to just slowly put the pressure and let it work its way to the last little click there. Running my hand across them, it feels like they're level. I don't have any major spots that feel too crazy. I think we're going to be fine once we throw grout in there. But yeah, again, this is I'm 2 hours later. This is where I'm at. I do have still a little bit of a high spot there, and I did have right here in this row at the very back there of the wall, there was about a 3-inch spot that was high. When I dry fit those first few, I had the tile was rocking back and forth a little bit, so I had to take the hammer and chisel and grind that, or not grind it down, but just pound it out and clean it up and get to it. So anyway, I'll update you guys here just a little bit. Okay, here we are, actually 2 days later. Thought this would all be tiled in one day, grouted in the next. But I got a call shortly after the ending of that last video from a tenant. Had some HVAC problems. Their furnace wasn't working. It was going to be getting chilly. Had to deal with that. So I had to finish tiling yesterday. And so I had to let the thin set all dry out till today. So I just figured I'd give you a quick update in recording these spacers. You're supposed to just be able to kick them out of there. So I tried the first couple that were right here, and they popped out relatively easy. So let's do a quick show and tell here. Let's see here. So okay, so sort of went not quite as. All right, so you really have to kick these suckers, some of them. Okay. All right. So let's see what it looks like down in there where they came out. Little thin set needs cleaned out there. Some through here. That's me missing that the first time around when it was kind of wet. Let me see if these are level. I don't feel much lippage. Maybe just a smidge there. I mean, it looks pretty good. I know over here that there was a little lippage. You can kind of see, even from that distance alone, just a tad there. And right along that wall, right there, there's a tad as well. Let me pull my finger out there. See how that wedge is up in the air a little bit? That apparently is, there was I missed a spot, a little bit of a high spot on the floor, but it was so minor that I didn't catch it until I already threw the thin set down, was trying to fight with the tile, and realized it was a little high. It's just a little. I mean, it might be 1/8 of an inch at most that it's high. So my cabinet's going to cover this all up. So am I going to worry about that 1/8 of an inch or so, or 1/16? Nah, I'm not. So back here behind the toilet, also ran into issue. This floor was not 100% level. Through level, I had a level on this whole floor. Like I didn't go over every inch, obviously, at this point. I went across, I had my 4-foot level and threw it across a handful of different angles, and everything was super close, if not maybe a 1/16 or something here and there. So I wasn't worried about it. But when I got back to here and was throwing the mud down, or threw the mud down and trying to wiggle the tiles into place, right, that back row, right behind the flange there, was a little high. And so but not to the point that I don't think it's going to cause any problems. That flange, as you can tell, since it was put down to the concrete, I'm going to have to buy an extender. I don't recommend doing the double wax ring solution. Some people will do that. The problem is when you have 2 wax rings, over time, the pressure, they compress, and you'll end up having a gap between the toilet and your waistline there, and you will have leaks. So I'll just buy the extension, and once I get to that point here in the next couple days, I'll record that just to show you what I mean. Plenty of other videos, I'm sure, on YouTube. I know I definitely saw one that, and I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but he showed, it was a really good video on how to put some silicone around there, and then put your new flange extension on there, and then you're good to go. So that's what I'll have to do there. The only other concern I had, really, and this is hopefully not really that big a deal. It doesn't look like, but if you can see, I used my laser level. Fantastic. I think it's pronounced Huepar or Hupar or something, and I don't know where the heck it's at right now. Oh, right here. So this thing, got a little mud splattered on it, but this is a green light, and you can see, like, it was fantastic. So I used it. Let me turn the sucker off. Got to hold this thing, I think 5 seconds. There we go. So I had did measurements. I got a line, and it all worked out. So as you can see along the wall, both sides had nearly full pieces, because my main concern was having a full row right here. But as you can see, I've got the 1/8 inch up there, but as it worked its way down, it got more to a 1/4 here at the end. But then right there in the middle, that wall is concaved a little bit, and it's basically about 3/8 of a gap there for about almost a foot. And so I'm going to have to just go a little heavy on my thin set on the wall here, because I'm using the same tile that I'm going to use. It's 1/4 inch tile for the walls, and I'm using that same tile to do this wall here, this knee wall. And with it being a 1/4, go heavy on the thin set. That'll bump me out a little bit. And then, of course, run my silicone bead along the between the tiles. So I'm not super worried about that at all. Of course, I say that now, and I'll be cussing later when I'm realizing it's a bigger headache than I originally thought. I wasn't real happy with this whole shower system to begin with. And then the drywall guys that did this little part for me, they put corner bead on here, but it sticks out a little bit past, so I've got that little bump out there, and I'm hoping that doesn't cause a major problem, because now this here doesn't come out 100% flush. It comes out and ramps outward a little bit. So I don't know. Again, I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. I might have to just remove that corner bead altogether. I'm not sure. Just who knows. But anyway, I'm going to remove these spacers. Got a little bit of touch-up sanding to do there, a little bit on the ceiling, and this sucker will be ready to grout. So I'll end this here for now. I think this is like, what, 3 or 4 videos that I've tied into one at this point, and probably just ridiculously long. So I'm going to end this for now, and I'll update you guys here real soon. So thanks for stopping by. Leave comments, questions, complaints, whatever you want to do. Tell me how bad of a job I did. Completely open to any criticisms that you guys have, any questions you have. Hit that subscribe button. Be cool. And till next time, see you guys.